The 3DS is known for a lot of weird, gimmicky Nintendo games. I've talked about Rusty's Real Deal Baseball and Nintendo Badgercade before, but there are quite a few more digital-only Nintendo games that came out in this era. Most of these didn't get much attention, never got physical releases or merch, and are no longer available for purchase. From 2011 to 2015, Intelligent Systems, you may know from the Paper Mario series, Fire Emblem series, among others, made 4 games in the Pushmo series, which were quirky puzzle games where you manipulated blocks in different ways to reach the goal. I'm going to be taking a look at the entire series, which includes Pushmo, Crashmo, Pushmo World, and Stretchmo, and what made this niche and seemingly forgotten series so unique. There are a few games that hit that perfect sweet spot between accessibility and complex puzzles that anyone can pick up, but only the most determined can fully conquer. Pushmo isn't just one of those games, it's a masterclass in it. Released in December 2011 on the Nintendo 3DS eShop for just $6.99, Pushmo was one of Nintendo's earliest digital exclusive first-party titles. It was like they were quietly testing the waters, making a new digital IP, as before this, Nintendo's digital stores were used more for virtual console and maybe a few short games here or there. Anyway, the game is set in Pushmo Park, which is a vibrant, pastel-colored area filled with relaxing music and playgrounds. There's no epic lore like Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, no dark secret waiting at the end in this edgy era of games, just a bunch of kids who got stuck inside giant block puzzles somehow. Papa Blox, your mentor and resident bearded block wizard, task you with getting them out. You pretty much just take control of the protagonist Mallo, no, not the Mallo from Super Mario RPG, and just start doing puzzles. Pushmo's brilliance lies in its really simple mechanic. Each colored block can be pulled out up to 3 units towards you. You can climb on any surface as long as there's a ledge to land on. You can push blocks back in, but only from the front, no fancy sidestepping, no jumping tricks. And that's it. That's pretty much the entire mechanical toolkit, besides some extras like manhole covers. You can go through to basically teleport and switches that will automatically move blocks. But what Intelligent Systems does with it is really what made this a cult classic. The game starts off with basic puzzles, flat staircases, simple shapes that are easy, and it kind of stays that way for some time as you learn the mechanics and start to master them. And then as time goes on, the game really starts to get more complex. The difficulty curve in Pushmo is one of the best I've seen in any puzzle game. It's not a straight line, it's a gently sloping hill that suddenly turns into a mountain, but the game teaches you how to climb long before Bennett Foddy did. Each level introduces some new ideas to keep the game from getting stale, like there's rear access ladders you need to use in clever ways, blocks you can't pull unless others are moved first, sequences where you have to build your own staircases using cleverly staggered heights, and traps where pulling a block too far means you block yourself off entirely. And you learn through doing this, and through failing, very often. Like there's a puzzle shaped like a house that seems easy, but the chimney is just 1 block too tall to reach unless you realize you can't just climb from the front. You have to climb up through the back, using a barely visible ladder and pulling blocks from a different perspective. It's like the game is training your brain to think in 3D without needing you to actually play the game in 3D, since none of us were doing that if I'm being honest. Since this was an early 3DS game, it's pretty clear Nintendo really wanted to take advantage of the technology, but we all know how that turned out. Later puzzles introduce moving parts like manholes that warp you across the puzzle, so you're not just climbing, you're teleporting. You're planning around jumps, portals, and repositioning, and it starts to feel like a kid's version of Portal in a way. And then there are the pixel art puzzles. Around halfway through the game, you start unlocking puzzles shaped like Nintendo characters, like Mario, Peach, Samus, Link, Donkey Kong. These aren't just for show, they're actual climbing puzzles crafted with care. Climbing a blocky Mario's mustache became a genuine tactical problem. You could spend tons of time on one of these just to see how clever the devs were with hiding what you needed, like in the Goomba puzzle where the secret lies in his unibrow, I think. I'm not entirely sure. It's been a long time since I've seen gameplay of this. These puzzles are honestly my favorite. They take fan favorite characters and use them for 3D puzzles, which I always thought was really cool. So you may be wondering, what if you mess something up? Does Mallo get eliminated from existence, or do you simply reset all your progress? Well, in Pushmo, there's no live system, no time limit, no game over. You make a mistake and you rewind, it's that simple. You can rewind a single step or hold the button to rewind 100 moves. It's seamless, smooth, and encourages experimentation. Who knows, maybe Mario Kart World took inspiration from this. There were so many puzzles where you could get stuck, leave your local Smash Bros. Brawl tournament, come back, stare at it for 10 minutes, and try something ridiculous, and it would work. Then there's Pushmo Studio, the level creator. This wasn't some tacked on bonus, this was a full-blown creation engine. You could draw pixel art on a grid, assign block depths, test the level, and then publish it as a QR code. Suddenly, Pushmo became infinite just like Mario Maker would end up being, and the community for this was truly incredible. People were uploading puzzles shaped like Pokemon, third-party characters, game logos. You'd find a Charizard that took 30 minutes to climb, a Mario that was secretly a maze. The fan base for Pushmo was really passionate and made a ton of great levels. With a game with a pretty small community, this was really impressive. However, the QR code system, while fun, felt outdated even in 2011. An in-game browser would have made Pushmo a legit online platform instead of needing to get these codes in person or just look them up online. Pushmo was a great start to this new IP and was just a really relaxing game. There's kind of a comfort to it, because even when the puzzles get hard, it's never hostile. Mallo doesn't break the fourth wall and yell at you, Pullblox isn't judging you. Unless he secretly does, I don't know. The game just patiently waits while you figure it out. There's other games like this where you don't have time limits, but just something about the colorful art style and characters really set this apart. It wasn't just about solving puzzles, it was about learning how to think differently. Every solution felt earned, and every failure was a lesson. Pushmo was one of those games that didn't need a massive budget or underlying lore with a narrative that gave Nintendo YouTubers hours of video to make timeline theories of. It was purely about the puzzles. It proved that Nintendo could still create new ideas that felt as polished and beloved as the classics. While sales aren't known for the Pushmo series since it was a digital-only 3DS game, it at least sold well enough to justify a sequel with Crashmo. If Pushmo was just a stroll in a colorful park, Crashmo released just a year later in 2012 for just $7.99 and felt like stepping into a Rubik's Cube that somehow had come alive and was now judging how smart you were. It's like Pushmo, but with the training wheels ripped off. You're once again Mallo, back for more heroic puzzle climbing chicanery. This time though, the Pushmo style blocks have been replaced by Crashmo structures, these strange freestanding stacks of blocks that no longer lock in place. Now they fall with gravity. Think Jenga if Jenga was a logic puzzle and the blocks wanted you to suffer just a little bit. And no, this isn't Tetris either. The goal is still to reach the top of the structure, but everything else completely different. You're not just climbing up blocks anymore, you're solving spatial domino effects. Every pull, every push, every move sends blocks sliding and crashing down. There's no fixed foundation anymore, everything is mobile and everything can break the level if you're not careful. The area you play in is also much bigger than its predecessor and has a ton more possibilities. So where Pushmo was about building your own staircase, Crashmo is about deconstruction. It's reverse engineering, like you're constantly asking yourself, if I move this piece, what else is going to collapse? And what makes this so much more complex than Pushmo? Every block is subject to gravity and will fall straight down if unsupported. You now have to not only think about how to reach the top, but how to build a structure that will still exist long enough for you to get there. You can move blocks in open space. This gives you freedom, sure, but too much freedom and you could quickly get on the wrong path, leading you to need to restart. It's the kind of puzzle design that rewards careful forward thinking but punishes the reckless. The moment you stop planning and start randomly moving blocks, that's when the whole thing comes tumbling down. Very often, quite literally. The structure of the game world is broken into themed areas, each teaching you new tricks. One of my favorite zones was the one that introduced floating balloons. These added a surreal element to the physics. Suddenly blocks could be suspended in air, but were still subject to gravity the moment they were moved. These puzzles almost felt like sleight of hand. Suspend this here, pull it out, drop something into a gap, then scramble to climb it before it settles into an unsolvable heap. Then there were the switch blocks, which no is not a Switch puzzle game, which could open and close platforms remotely, like something straight out of a Zelda game, except now you had to activate them in a specific order while maneuvering the blocks. Let's talk a little more about the rewind mechanic, because you're going to be using it a lot. In Pushmo, rewind was a convenience. In Crashmo, it's essential. You will make mistakes constantly. The game almost expects it. Fortunately, the rewind feature lets you undo moves second by second. There's no live system once again. And just like with Pushmo, there's no punishment for experimenting. That encourages trial and error, which is crucial because some of these puzzles can really test you. This also leads to one of Crashmo's biggest criticisms. It's a much slower game than its predecessor. You'll spend far more time thinking and rewinding than actually climbing. This is a puzzle game that demands patience. Like if Pushmo was a quiz, Crashmo is a full-on AP World exam. It may have less levels at only 100 compared to Pushmo's 250, but you will spend a lot more time trying to solve these, so it evens out. Pushmo Studio also returns in the form of Crashmo Studio, so there's pretty much infinite content as well. Crashmo had a lot of pros in addition to everything I've said, like the incredible depth. The added complexity of physics opens the door to some of the most interesting spatial puzzles that I've ever seen. There's rewarding solutions, like solving a Crashmo puzzle is just so satisfying because you feel like you earned it. There's no cheesing your way through these puzzles because they require a legitimate grasp of spatial logic. The visual clarity is pretty good for this. Like the game is on the 3DS, but it looks really good for a 3DS game, even though the hardware's pretty old. And there's also better creation tools. Like I said, the level editor returned, but this time with even more options. The game wasn't perfect though, depending on how you look at it. Like this is not a game you can binge, it's mentally exhausting. After 3 or 4 puzzles, you may want to just take a break, or maybe not, that's just subjective. And then there's just trial and error overload. Some puzzles have a very narrow correct path, and figuring that out could take dozens of failed attempts. Critically, Crashmo was praised, albeit a little less than Pushmo. It holds an 85 on Metacritic, but among fans, it was a bit divisive. Some absolutely loved the increased challenge, felt like a grown-up Pushmo. Others bounced off the difficulty curve and missed the lighter tone of the original. Still, it had its audience, it built upon the foundation of Pushmo in bold ways, and left fans wanting more. By the time 2014 rolled around, Pushmo and Crashmo had cemented themselves as cult classics on the 3DS. So naturally, Nintendo decided to bring Mallo to HD, and Pushmo World was born. It released on the Wii U, and being a much more powerful system, it looked worlds better and really did the colorful art style justice. Now to be clear, Pushmo World was not a radical reinvention. It's basically a spiritual remake of the first game with shinier graphics, fresh puzzles, some new mechanics, and a much needed improved online component. But that doesn't mean it wasn't great. If you love the original Pushmo, this still felt new enough and had all the same charm. Visually, Pushmo World popped. The bright blocky levels were clean and vibrant on the Wii U and its hardware. Everything had this soft, plastic, almost toy-like aesthetic. It felt like you were playing with a physical puzzle set. The physics were as precise as ever, the jumping and climbing felt tight, the puzzles once again escalated from relaxing to wishing you were doing something else because of how difficult it was. But Pushmo World didn't really try to change the game, it just refined it. Like I said before, there were a few new features in the puzzles like linked blocks that will move multiple disconnected blocks at the same time, and time blocks that like probably could guess would move back after a certain amount of time, and yin and yang blocks that will move in other blocks as you move one out. Nothing too crazy, but changes it up just enough to make it feel fresh. One of the best additions in Pushmo World was the World Pushmo Fair. It's an online hub for custom puzzles, finally a proper way to browse and download levels from other players without having to awkwardly scan QR codes one at a time like you were a grocery store cashier. This felt like the closest the series ever got to Mario Maker. You could jump into dozens of puzzles uploaded by players around the world, rate them, and even favorite creators, breathe new life into the community. But here's the tragic part. It was still on the Wii U. And the Wii U, well, let's just say it didn't exactly have a long line outside the door. 3DS may have started slow, but the sales picked up and gave a lot of people the opportunity to play Pushmo and Crashmo. But Pushmo World was just released on the Wii U and never got ported again. It likely didn't sell very well, which is sad considering its affordable price of just $10, which is some of the best bang for your buck you could get on a high quality game like this. Pushmo World had a big visual upgrade, which was easily the cleanest and smoothest in the series. There was the new level types with a solid mix of structure and sculpture puzzles with tighter design across the board, and like I said, the online sharing was just so much better in this. However, there was no real innovation. If you had played Pushmo, this was more of the same. Albeit, like I said, there were enough differences to keep it fairly fresh. This game was trapped on the Wii U, unfortunately, so I'm sure there's plenty of Pushmo fans that just didn't have a Wii U that never got a chance to play this. I think Pushmo World was also a little bit less personal. It replaced Pushmo Park with a sterile, menu-driven structure. It's alright, but it's not the same. After Crashmo came out and changed the whole formula, fans were divided on World. Many liked how it was a return to form to the simpler Pushmo style, and many wanted more change. Fortunately for them, the next game would shake things up even more. Stretchmo, or Pullblox if in Europe or Japan, is where the Pushmo series quietly wrapped up its legacy, at least for now. Released in 2015 on the Nintendo 3DS, it was the fourth and final game in the series, and while it didn't make the biggest splash, it was quietly one of the most inventive and mechanically rich puzzle games Nintendo ever put out. And it hurts too, because it also marked the moment this wonderful little franchise disappeared. At first glance, Stretchmo looks familiar. Mallo's back, the blocky art style is intact, and the goal is still to reach the top of puzzle structure by manipulating the environment. But from the first level, you'll notice something new. Blocks can now be stretched, hence the name Stretchmo, not just pulled forward like in Pushmo, not dropped in like Crashmo, but expanded horizontally and vertically growing in size like puffy marshmallows. This new mechanic fundamentally transforms the entire gameplay flow. You're no longer just climbing a puzzle, you're sculpting it in real time. And here's where things get interesting. You don't buy the game, or at least not at first. You start with a short demo called Mallo's Playtime Plaza. It includes a tutorial and some easy puzzles to get you hooked. Then, like in Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, which I covered in another video that you should check out, you are prompted to purchase additional packs, this time being themed puzzle packs. If you bought these all as a bundle, it would just be $10, but it was just kind of a weird pricing model that could have turned people off from this game. Nintendo could have made this a $10 game and no one would have been upset about that due to it still being cheap. But anyway, let's get back to the game itself. Stretching blocks adds a new dimension, quite literally. Blocks now behave like rubbery taffy. You can stretch them up, stretch them out, use them to make ledges, or more commonly, stretch them in the wrong direction and get sidetracked. Where Pushmo asked, how do I get to the top? And Crashmo asked, what will fall if I do this? Stretchmo asks, what happens when this block grows into a new shape entirely? The best puzzles in this game, especially in the later packs, require you to manipulate blocks in 3 directions at once, while planning for how those manipulations will affect surrounding structures. The moment it clicks though, it's glorious. You start seeing the puzzle not just as a climbing challenge, but as a moldable object. There's this spatial plasticity to it. Kind of feels like playing with clay. You're creating footholds, carving tunnels, building stairs. But make no mistake, it's a hard game. It took what made the previous games great and used that for the challenge here. Let's talk a little more about the puzzle packs, because Stretch Mode is divided up more like a theme park than a linear game, and honestly, by itself, that isn't bad. That's just how Nintendo had them as mission packs, like I already mentioned. So there's Mallo's Playtime Plaza, which is your first real test. There's 100 levels while the others have 50, and it's pretty easy, and it slowly layers in the stretch mechanic with soft colors and bouncy music. You'll stretch a block to reach a high ledge, and then realize stretching a block your path, and I guess you gotta use the rewind button then. This is pretty basic, but it does a good job getting you into the game. Then there's Poppy's Sculpture Square. This pack is visually stunning. Each puzzle is built in the shape of animals, food, objects, or Nintendo characters, like a big cute Pikachu you can climb. It's less about crushing your brain and more about appreciating the artistry. But even here, the puzzles aren't just eye candy, they're legit challenges. Gordon's Fortress of Fun is where things start to get serious. These are some of the hardest puzzles in the entire series. You've got trap blocks, spikes, retracting blocks, and massive multi-step stretching puzzles that feel like a masterclass in spatial reasoning. There's Papa-Blox's NES Expo, which was a love letter to Nintendo fans. You climb 8-bit renditions to Mario, Link, Samus, and more, all rendered in stretchable blocks. These weren't just nostalgic, they were cleverly designed puzzles in their own right, like we've seen previously in the series. The Donkey Kong level, for instance, looked like classic arcade Donkey Kong, but had barrel-shaped puzzles that force you to stretch and retract in alternating patterns to avoid spikes. The amount of personality packed into this collection was insane. It's clear the devs were having a blast making these. And then there's also the mystery bonus pack. This final set of puzzles was brutal. No themes, no gimmicks, just raw puzzle designs, stripped down and hardcore. These were the kinds of puzzles where you'd stretch a block slightly in the wrong direction and immediately have to rewind. Stretch Mode Studio might be the best puzzle creation tool in the whole series. It let you stretch and shrink blocks, toggle hazards, and create some absolutely crazy contraptions. The community, though smaller, now still found ways to upload their levels through QR codes. You could argue this was the most mechanically rich game in the series. The pacing was flexible as you could jump between packs, even though I know some people see that as a flaw. The theme park presentation kind of made the game feel big, personal, and full of charm. And this was great value once again because you got over 250 puzzles. That is if you bought all the packs. However, weirdly enough, we were stuck with QR codes in 2015 after Pushmo World that kind of fixed this issue. It's like how the Wii U had usernames, how you could add friends, and then the Switch and now Switch 2, for some reason, have friend codes. For some reason, Nintendo just likes to devolve sometimes. And despite being brilliant, this game came and went with barely a mention from Nintendo. And then after this, silence. Stretch Mode was the last we saw of Mallo. No Switch port, no Stretch Mode Deluxe, no physical release. Just a quietly brilliant finale that is now unpurchasable because the 3DS and the Wii U eShop shut down. If you don't already own this game, you cannot play it, at least not officially. Like I said, there was never physical releases for this, so it's not like you can even pay a premium to get it. Your only way to play it now are by unofficial means, or by purchasing a 3DS with them downloaded, or a Wii U with Pushmo World. Some digital games I understand why Nintendo is in no rush to re-release, like Rusty's Real Deal Baseball or Nintendo Badger Arcade, because they feel more of like a product of their time. But even though I'd love for those to return on the Switch too, the Pushmo series was just a unique and well-made collection of games that could easily be ported to the Switch too, whether through the eShop or even a physical copy with all 4 games. Maybe even some new mission packs or something. I'd love for a new game, but that should at least be the bare minimum. The Switch 2 has been out for a couple months now and hasn't had too many first-party games released yet, so this would be a perfect time to introduce people to this somewhat forgotten series. Anyway, that's the video. Let me know your thoughts on the Pushmo series, if you played this, if you wish you could play it, if you want to see it return, and be sure to check out my other content. It also would really help me out if you like, commented, and subscribed. I make videos like this a lot. Like I have videos, like I said, on Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, on Me Plaza, on Nintendo Badger Arcade, as well as other content if you're interested in that. So be sure to subscribe and click the bell. Thank you for watching Domainy, and I'll see you next time.